Have you ever found yourself in a moment that felt like the end, only to realize later it was the turning point that changed everything? Life doesn't always go the way we plan. Sometimes a door closes. Sometimes everything falls apart. And in those moments, we often ask ourselves, why is this happening to me? If you've ever felt that way, then this story is for you. Have you ever faced something that felt like the end? This is a story about why losing everything isn't always a loss. Mr. Adam was a poor farmer who lived on the edge of a small, quiet village. His most precious possession was Max, a strong and loyal horse. Max wasn't just an animal. He helped Mr. Adam plow the fields and felt like a cherished member of the family. Then one day, everything changed. Max disappeared. The gate to his stable was open, and the horse was nowhere to be found. The news spread through the village like wildfire. Everyone pitied Mr. Adam, but many also mocked him. That's what you get for not selling the horse. When you had the chance, they'd say, such bad luck. But Mr. Adam, a man of few words and deep wisdom, simply smiled and said, I don't know if this is good or bad. Time will tell. We often label things too quickly. A lost job, a failed relationship, a missed opportunity. We instantly call them failures. We see the immediate pain and assume it's the final verdict. But life is more complex than that. Consider James, a 42-year-old man from Texas who lost his job in the oil industry during a downturn. For months, he felt like a failure, unable to provide for his family. He was forced to take on odd jobs, and in his spare time, he started learning about sustainable energy online. What started as a desperate attempt to find new work slowly turned into a passion. 2 years later, he built his own small company installing solar panels, a business that not only became more successful than his old job, but also felt more meaningful. What felt like a devastating loss turned out to be the catalyst for his greatest gain. When fortune knocks, don't get too comfortable. A few days after Max disappeared, the villagers awoke to a surprising sight. When good things happen, we often let our guard down. We think the worst is behind us and that our luck has finally turned. But comfort can be a trap. Like a startup in California that went viral just days after its launch. They celebrated, hired dozens of new employees, and spent a fortune on a fancy new office. They were so focused on scaling fast that they ignored the warning signs. Their app had a high churn rate and could retain users. A few months later, the initial hype died down, and the company crashed. Fortune can be a gift, but if we get careless, it becomes a test we weren't prepared for. Sometimes, what brings you pain now is actually offering you protection later. Mr. Adam's only son, Daniel, was thrilled with the new horses. He was a young, energetic man who loved a challenge. He decided he would train them, starting with the wildest and strongest one of the herd. He spent days working with the magnificent stallion, trying to tame its spirit. One afternoon, he finally tried riding it. The horse, still untamed, kicked and bucked violently. Daniel was thrown to the ground with immense force. He landed badly, and a sharp crack echoed through the air. His leg was broken. Again, the whispers started in the village. This family is cursed, they said. First the horse runs away, then it brings more trouble. Now the son is injured, but Mr. Adams sat by his son's side, tending to the injury, and said calmly, this pain, it might be protecting you from something worse. Daniel, writhing in agony, didn't understand his father's words. How could a broken leg be a form of protection? We often don't understand the purpose of our pain until time makes it clear, just like Sarah, a young American student who was devastated after being rejected from her dream medical school. She had worked for years, sacrificing everything, only to face what felt like a soul-crushing failure. She reluctantly enrolled in her second-choice university, feeling like her future was ruined. A year later, a massive scandal erupted at her dream school, revealing that the institution had engaged in academic fraud. Many students had their degrees invalidated, and their careers were ruined before they even began. Sarah's rejection, which once felt like the end of the world, had saved her from a professional catastrophe. Sometimes, what hurts you is actually saving you. It was the war you avoided without even knowing it. A week after Dano's injury, the king's soldiers arrived in the village. War had broken out with the neighboring kingdom. By royal decree, all able-bodied young men were to be conscripted into the army immediately. They were rounded up and marched away, leaving behind weeping families, all except Daniel. "If I hadn't broken my leg," he said, his voice filled with awe, "I might not be here now." And his father just smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. Sometimes, the obstacle you thought was ruining your path is actually the very thing keeping you alive. The universe has a way of protecting you, even when its methods feel painful and confusing. Time knows the truth not. We are so quick to judge our circumstances. We label events as good or bad the moment they happen. We see a closed door and call it rejection. We see a setback and call it failure. But life isn't made of instant conclusions. It's a long, unfolding story, one that only makes sense when we look back and see how all the pieces fit together. It is a tapestry where the dark threads are just as necessary as the bright ones to create the final picture. Think of the young coder who was rejected by Google for his dream job. He was heartbroken. Instead of giving up, he started a blog to document his journey of learning new coding languages. He poured his frustration and passion into it. 2 years later, his blog had become famous in the tech community, valued for its honest and practical insights. He was invited to speak at major tech conferences. And one of those invitations, it came from Google. Let time tell the truth. Your only job is to stay patient, stay learning, and keep moving forward. Trust that the narrative is still being written. Maybe that closed door wasn't a rejection, it was a redirection. Maybe that failure wasn't an ending, it was a lesson. And maybe that painful moment isn't a curse, but a blessing in disguise. Have you ever experienced something that felt like bad luck, but later turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to you? Share your story in the comments. Someone out there might need to hear it today to find hope in their own journey.